Hello everybody, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I wanted to make a YouTube video on Z Fighter's Path to Power, also known as Dragon Ball Final Hope 2.0. Since I've just been playing it for a little while here, and I just wanted to give my first impressions on it. Since this channel stems from making Roblox content on Dragon Ball games, so I don't really see why not. Dragon Ball games nowadays really are not looked at very fondly whatsoever. Most people look at them very negatively and do not like them anymore because most of them are just really crappy and shitty grind fest with obvious metas that have no deviation from one another, typically consisting of you just sitting there pressing left click on a generic enemy and leveling up and playing as a Saiyan. Very few games will offer any variety outside of that, and if they do, they usually have a caveat that makes them very annoying, bad, or just frustrating to play. And this game is really no exception to such a thing. It does take a lot of inspiration from Final Stand, as was the original project did the same thing when he first made Final Hope, because I actually do have a video of the Final Hope on my channel, 2 videos, a level 200 Majin showcase, and a solo video on Bio Broly. You can no longer play the original version of Final Hope, which kind of sucks, and that's fine. The new version here came out, and I reached level 46. I did a bunch of things, content within the game so far. I've killed a couple of the bosses, and I've done a lot of the combat, so I've kind of learned how to play the game. Obviously, I'm gonna play as a Majin. It's Shop 25 after all. Every video, one of my most popular videos was me talking about Majins and how to build them. It was the first video that I've ever made to get 10,000 views, and thank you guys so much for the support. I really do mean that. It's honestly, thank you guys a lot. I appreciate it, man. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. So we're gonna start with the pros. Pretty standard stuff. A lot of the pros would be the art design. I think a lot of the stuff in the game looks really cool. I think there's a lot of interesting enemies. Pretty decent map, in my opinion. I think it's pretty well versed. A lot of things are very well made. The map is unique. I've never really seen it like this. It does take a lot of inspiration from Final Stand with the giant ravine behind the starter area. But the bad things about the map are it's kind of too big, and it's kind of hard to figure out where the heck you're supposed to go next, because to unlock certain quests you need to be a certain level. If you look at my screen, it is very kind of hard to see. Those little dots there always stay on your screen, and you can never get them off. For some strange reason, some quests, even upon completing them, will not they won't go away, so the dot will remain on your screen. That is just a quality of life thing, and it can be kind of annoying. I think this is because they might have more quests for you to do with this character, which is why the dot doesn't go away, and I might not have reached the level to complete all of their quests. So that is kind of frustrating to deal with and to pay attention to. But the quests are pretty standard and decently unique for what they are. A lot of the enemies in this game do have a lot of variation in their combat styles and how they attack you or they approach attacking you, and that's pretty great. But a lot of the negative things about the map is mainly because it's too bright. A lot of the textures are very, very, very bright during the daytime, like this grass texture here. During the day will be really shiny, and it actually really hurts your eyes, and it's kind of hard to look at. I kind of wish they would tone down the reflections a little bit, or maybe make this a darker colored green to, just for a quality of life kind of thing. It's a nitpick, I know, but a lot of people, it is annoying. And same thing with the hyperbolic time chamber. The hyperbolic time chamber in the original Final Hope wasn't a white void like it is now. It used to be like an image of the Aurora Borealis lights, and it was like kind of grayish silver, and it looked really cool. It was a very unique take on the hyperbolic time chamber, and it looks really pretty to fight in against Goku at the time. Now it is currently a bright white void that, I am not kidding, genuinely burned my retinas, and I had to take a break after doing the hyperbolic time chamber because it hurt my eyes because of how shiny the game was. Yeah, it was really bad, and I am gonna have to say I really wish they would change that. It is incredibly infuriating to deal with, especially when you pay money for the hyperbolic time chamber and it literally blinds you while you're doing it. That's not a very good way to keep the players engaged, and it might end up making people not ever want to touch hyperbolic time chamber because it hurts their eyes. It's a real thing, man. And another thing, a nitpick would be the blur effect. For some reason, a lot of the more modern Roblox games love to use this blur effect. I do not know why. Please stop. It's really annoying because it makes it harder to see, and it just looks bad. I don't really understand why they do this. It's kind of strange. I think it is so that things that are out of your render distance, like for example that right there, you can't see it, which I guess that makes sense, but I'm sorry guys, this isn't really a AAA game. I think making the game as accessible as possible and making elements of the game as less infuriating to deal with as possible is more important than trying to hide render issues. I find it to be very frustrating to look at. But again, that is a nitpick and a personal thing. Maybe you guys like it, maybe you think it helps the aesthetic of the game, and that's completely fine. For me personally, I do not think it does those things. I think it achieves the opposite. I think it makes the game look cheap, like it's trying to build some kind of atmosphere. It's a Roblox game, please. It does not have such a thing, and if you wanted to do that, you would need to go about it differently, rather than going about it in a very generic way. One of the bigger things for me is going to be the combat. Now that's very important for a lot of fighting games, especially one that is supposed to be Dragon Ball oriented, such as this game here. The combat is a little bit hit or miss. For example, let's take this, say, an enemy here. You could do a pretty cool combo on him. You just 1, 2, 3, 4 sledgehammer, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, standard little combo, you know, whatever. You can do a deadly dance into another sledgehammer, and he can do a little counter on you. Now, that's what I wanted to get into, is counters. A lot of NPCs have this move, especially when you hit about level 30. A lot of the enemies will start to use counter moves on you. Now, that's fine, right? They can use counter moves all they want, but if you didn't notice right there in that moment, he used it when I was attacking him. Now, it's not much of a counter move if I can't counter it myself, right? If he's able to just use the move in the middle of a combo, I don't understand what is skillful about that. It is essentially just padding out the game to make the fight artificially more difficult for you, the player. I don't understand why that's really a thing. Now, I think it is just a bug because you cannot do the same thing. I have the move. It is called Bloody Counter. It's this. And essentially when an enemy, you know, I think it's an evasive move if I'm not mistaken. Bloody Counter should not be like this because bosses can use this move, I'm pretty sure. I've seen a couple of bosses use it. That is not fair. That is annoying to go against because, yes, I get it. For the player, if you are playing as a person, doesn't matter, right? It uses stamina, that's fine. NPCs don't have stamina, so they can just use it over and over and over again, especially bosses. That is incredibly annoying and not fun to go against. If you don't want us to combo them, you can go about it in a different way, because what this is going to do is it's going to create a meta, and the meta is going to be key moves because key moves are easier to use and make the game significantly more simple. That is what it's going to do. Now, using the move, it's whatever, right? When an NPC uses the move, you take half your health in one shot and you're about to die. Now, I'm playing a health and key max build Majin. That should be not a surprise to a single soul, as, you know, why not? I want to play as that. Fuck you. When I'm tanking half of my health from some of the enemies that I'm supposed to be fighting because they decided to use a counter move on me, that is not fair. It's incredibly annoying, and then they can use it again right after the fact, after the 4-second timer is up, and break my combo a second time, which could lead into them comboing me and then me dying. Again, this makes the fighting significantly more, how you say, dreadful, annoying, just it makes me want to just not play the game or just quit or just fight a different enemy, and it makes it a slog. It makes me feel like I'm doing a chore rather than as if I'm doing something skillful. And in some scenarios it's fine because, you know, well, if you can just combo them to oblivion, well, what's the harm? You have a key bar. You can't infinitely combo something unless you deliberately use a glitch or cheating or use some kind of exploit somewhere where a move uses like a really low amount of ki and it does a shit ton of damage or something like that. You can't infinitely chain a combo. Like if you do sledgehammer and then you do a deadly dance, you can then do another 4-hit string into this move right here. You could that's a 3-move combo, and it used almost all of my ki. That's fair. Like, that's, in my opinion, that is fair, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And look, now he's almost dead, and look, I'm taking some hits here too. So it's not like he needs this counter move to do damage to me. It's human error, right? I think they should rebalance it for NPCs specifically, or just not give it to them at all. Because most NPCs, I'm not in the later game just yet, but from what I've seen so far, a lot of the enemies at my level have enough health to not need to use an evasive like that at all, especially one that can act, well, they'll always combo into it. They'll hit you with it, and they will use a move right after. A good example is the Xeno fighters. Let me try to go ahead and find them. As you can see there, he comboed into a 70 damage combo. That's just really annoying to deal with, especially when you need to kill 7 of them, and each of them get out of your combos constantly, and then it just becomes this whole thing of a back and forth that takes you like 20 minutes to do. That is not fun. I'm sorry. I don't know how you guys like your combat in your video games, but I like my combat fair and fluid. If they remove such a thing in the game, it'll make the combat significantly better and make the game a little bit more enjoyable to play. Alright, and the next point here is going to be bosses. Bosses are oh my gosh. Bosses are something, let me tell you. I don't really know what brain trust at the Final Hope Studios was conjuring up the idea for the bosses in this game, but they are bullshit. What a bunch of fucking horseshit. I don't understand why you decided to give the boss that has 3,000 health an evasive move and Z-vanish that he can teleport behind you. Why did you think that was a good idea? An evasive on a boss? An evasive on a boss. In Final Stand, which is what this game is inspired off of, bosses had evasives. Now, the evasives in those games weren't as annoying to deal with, but holy shit were they frustrating. Yeah, you hit an enemy, bam, oh, instant evasive. Oh, you hit him, bam, instant evasive. Oh, hit him, bam, oh, instant evasive. And on some moves, it would bug out your character, and you would not be able to use the move again because he evasive out of it with no real explanation or way to fix it. No, I'm not saying this game suffers from the same issue. I'm saying that the enemies in this game are significantly more tankier and do a lot of damage. Now, I'm fine with the NPCs being difficult. I'm fine with the bosses being strong, powerful, using combos. I'm okay with that. I am not okay when you finally get a hit on the boss and he uses an evasive and dodges your hits. That is what I'm not okay with. Because, again, it makes it unfair because bosses have infinite stamina and infinite ki, meaning that there's no way to make them stop. In a game like Xenoverse 2, which is another, Dragon Ball game, every enemy has ki and every enemy has a stamina bar, right? If you break the stamina bar, the opponent cannot use evasives, cannot Z-vanish, cannot do anything. And this game is the same way. You have a stamina bar. And if you don't have enough stamina, you can't use any evasives. That's great. Now, I am not an expert Roblox coder, so I do not know if they can code it to where bosses have the same limits. Okay, even if they give him like a bunch of stamina, like let's say for just a hypothetical, they give Piccolo 300 stamina. If you don't know, Piccolo is a boss in this game, which I should have actually showed footage of him on screen. Anyways, it is not okay to do that because, again, it pads the game. It makes you play longer. This is a kind of predatory business practice, and I don't like it. And it kind of, again, it shows their incompetence as developers. I do, trust that maybe they'll address these issues, or they might not, and that's okay. If they don't, then too bad, right? You know, they don't have to listen to me. Oh, well, I just got murdered by an e-girl. Anyways, they don't have to listen to me, and that's whatever. I don't give a shit, because really, what's the harm in it? Because, you know, hard bosses, I suppose it gives me a reason to play the game, but the thing is me doing a 3-hit combo on a boss with 3,000 health really doesn't fucking matter, because the damage that I'll deal is not significant enough to matter. Now, there are obviously people who may or may not have found exploits to chain moves infinitely, and if so, that is not something that you need to band-aid fix with giving a boss an evasive move. Same thing with the NPCs. That's something that you need to address with the move itself. A good example would be Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer is a 3-second cooldown, and you can technically infinite loop it with Deadly Dance, right? It's not hard to do that, right? As long as you can figure out how to do it, it's really fucking easy, and you can just keep doing it over and over. It's a safe way of dealing damage if the opponent does not have an evasive move. So, yeah, that's a problem. Maybe they should increase the cooldown to 3.5 seconds, which would actually remedy the problem. I would say do that to Deadly Dance and not Sledgehammer, as Sledgehammer is a starter move, and there's no reason to nerf a starter move. It's just kind of stupid. Deadly Dance, though, is not a starter move, so I think it'd be okay to do that with it, because they both share the same cooldown times. And it's not really hard to get use out of them, because by the time the Deadly Dance is over, because Deadly Dance lasts a very long time as it comes out, you will be able to use Sledgehammer once more. Like I said, it's an infinite loop, technically speaking, on NPCs without evasives. And again, it should not be remedied by the enemy having an evasive. It's stupid. And again, it frustrates the player. Ask my friend Cosmic, who is another person who makes videos on Dragon Ball Roblox content. He has also made a video very similar to this one. And I was actually in a call with him today. And I was talking to him about it, and I said, I told him that I was going to make a first impressions video, and he said that I made one. And apparently he also played Majin. So, for anyone who watches his channel, please go sub to him, if you haven't already. He makes great content, especially if you like this kind of content. He makes significantly more than me, and he grinds them more than I do, so he has a lot better insight than I can give. So, yeah, okay. Thank you, Cosmic, for the inspiration, you know, and stuff like that. He has the same gripes as I do, exact same gripes, especially with the bosses having evasives. He hates the fucking combat. Now, in the end game and the raids, I was told that a lot of the enemies in the raids, well, they have evasives, and it's really fucking annoying, because, yeah, that's bullshit. They shouldn't. I know I've been harping on this fact a lot, but in my opinion, changing this will keep the longevity of the game and keep players intact. Final Stand, again, did have enemies with evasive moves, but they were very rare. You rarely ever saw enemies with evasive moves. And the evasives in that game didn't mean that you would die instantly. The only time an evasive move would ever actually end up killing the player was Fryaza in Heaven, Broly, and, well, it's kind of obvious where Broly is, Broly in, you know, the Broly raid, and Jiren, because Jiren had Super Explosive Wave. They all have Super Explosive Wave, and their Super Explosive Wave would do a lot of damage because of how many sats they had. And that was fine because it made sense. The enemy was a raid-type enemy, and they were incredibly powerful. Now, before you say, well, Chop, since you said it's okay because they're raid-type enemies, wouldn't that mean that the raids in this game are the same thing? Not exactly, because dying in a top, if you are playing with a couple of friends, means that you still have a chance to win, and you can heal from the damage using Senzu Beans. You can do the similar thing into this game, but to a much less degree, because you can get comboed to an absolute oblivion. Because this game is combo-oriented, unlike Dragon Ball Z Final Stand, which is single-move-oriented. That cannot be said about the PvP, of course. I'm just talking about the PvE aspect of the game, which, you know, is just you versus the NPC or you versus the world. Hopefully, like, a lot of people agree with me on this. I would assume they do. If you don't agree with me on this, please challenge my thought process in the comments. I would honestly like to hear your thoughts, because I'm really curious. Obviously, I don't really want to attack the developers too much. I know I did just say it's horse shit, but that was just kind of dramatics for dramatic's sake. Now let's move on to one more gripe that is a specific nitpick towards Majins. Now, Majins, man, do I love them so much. Jesus Christ. Now, the Majin's race ability is pretty standard. Kill an opponent, a little orb will pop out of them. This orb you can pick up and it'll give you stats. And the stats that it gives you are, I'm pretty sure, proportional to your level as the player. Now, if you just saw there for the brief moment, a little orb did just kill. When I killed that crane student, just popped out of him. Now, when you pick up this orb, it gives you increased stats. Yeah, that's pretty much all it does. Now, I'm fine with that. I think that's that's really unique and very cool. Now, what isn't cool is the fact that it fucking floats around, and guess what? Unless you are doing flying combat, you can't pick it up because it'll go on the floor. Let me try to showcase this to you once more. There it is. So this orb will float up randomly into random different directions. As you can see there, it floats up, it floats down, and moves around. When I pick it up, you'll see my character pulsates for a moment, and I get increased stats. Right here, as you can see there, it signifies that you have increased stats because it glows. Now, I'm not exactly 100% sure how many stats it gives you. I am not 100% sure if it is based off of your level. Like I said just before, I'm okay with this. This is cool. I like the idea, and I think the execution is pretty cool. That is a lie. I think the execution is pretty shitty. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, it's kind of obvious. The orb can go through the floor, and you cannot pick it up. So if you're doing ground combat, you're fucked. Yeah. I don't really know why it does this. It should just be stationary upon killing the enemy, because the idea is that you are absorbing them. Don't really see a point. Yes, yeah, it gives me 3 stats, so that's kind of cool, I guess. I mean, like, whatever, I guess. It's just kind of annoying, because, again, it shouldn't be like that. It should just be a stationary orb. I shouldn't have to chase it around to pick it up. It's just kind of weird. Other than that, I do think the art direction for a lot of the moves is really cool. I like the fact that critical upper is very similar to the one in Xenoverse. I like the fact that Sledgehammer isn't complete trash in this game. I think they did a lot of the balancing for some of the moves decently well. I think a lot of it is just fine. I think the transformations are pretty cool from what I've seen personally. And I think this game has a lot of potential as long as they just listen to their fan base and they try to understand where we're coming from. And I think they'll do just fine. I mean, a lot of people have been looking very forward to this game as a whole. And yeah, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you hated this video, please make sure you dislike it and tell me why you hated it in the comments below. Or not, I don't really care. Anyways, see ya.